Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to Froze Bets. Got another video for y'all today. Today, we're filling out our college football playoff bracket, the first one of the new college football playoff bracket format, the 12-team format. And I'm super excited. It's kind of like March Madness, except a lot less teams. And guys, these matchups are pretty good this year. I will say the seeding is pretty weird, especially having Arizona as the 4 seed and Boise State as the 3 seed, with just how it works with the new conference champion winners. But we're gonna fill out the bracket today, my favorite picks, and see who's gonna win this college football title. So let's get into it, boys. First of all, we have number 12 Clemson taking on number 5 Texas. Now this matchup, guys, a little bit of an interesting one. Clemson just beat SMU in the ACC title, very narrowly, I will say, and this matchup with Texas, guys, I mean, obviously I do love Clemson. Dabo Swinney, great coach, college football, but Texas is winning this game, guys. Honestly, if you guys want to take the money line on this game, it's probably the best lock of this first round here. Texas, I mean, they haven't looked too great. Quinn Ewers hasn't looked too great, has been very injury prone this year. Honestly, guys, who has Texas really beat this year? I'm not really feeling too confident about them going deep into this playoff run, besides, an Arch Manning, pull later into the rounds. But guys, honestly, this is just a free pick here. Texas going against Clemson. Yeah, not much else to say about this one. The point total, if we look at here, Texas is favored by 11. The under and over is 51.5. I really like if you guys want to take the money line on Texas here, minus 450. Not a bad bet if you guys parlay it up, but minus 450 Texas, I'm going to take it easily. Arizona State does get the bye. And next one, Tennessee, Ohio State. Now, guys, this matchup, two pretty great defenses, especially Tennessee this year. Obviously, haven't been airing out as much. Been relying on their running back quite a bit there. And Iamaliava, pretty decent quarterback, SEC team here. Going against Ohio State, Ryan Day with his job on the line here in this college football playoff. If Ohio State doesn't go deep into this playoff run, he's gone. And honestly, I do like Tennessee to cover here. I do like the under on the total here. I think it's 47.5. Ohio State in a good spot here. I think I'm going to take Ohio State to win this one very narrowly. I think the under in this game will hit. And guys, I mean, Ohio State, they looked pretty good this year. They did lose to Oregon very narrowly, but I'm still going to take them against Tennessee here. In a couple brackets, I do have Tennessee advancing, but in this case, Ohio State, just a little bit too much talent for an SEC team. And I think if you're an Ohio State fan, I think you'll be very satisfied beating an SEC team and heading on to the Rose Bowl. So love Ohio State in this matchup. Under is probably my favorite bet in this game at 47.5. So love that one. Then we got SMU, Penn State. Now, guys, honestly, it ain't much to say about this one. Penn State, heavily favored in this game. SMU, I think they're just happy that they're here, to be honest, especially with the freshman quarterback. At the start of the year, they had Preston Stone, and, this guy, Jennings, I mean, he looks like he's going to be a pretty great quarterback. I will say, if you want to take SMU on, like, futures bets for next year, SMU could definitely win the ACC. And, they're looking to be pretty dominant, and they're going to be spending a lot of money in the transfer portal. But I don't think this is their year, guys. I think Penn State is going to roll past them here pretty easily. If you guys want to take the money line, go ahead. Honestly, I think Penn State even covers in this game as well. I'm not sure what the line is. We can take a look at it, but it's 8.5. I think Penn State covers pretty easily here. Great defense in Penn State. Have looked a little bit suspect recently, but honestly, guys, I'm going to take Penn State in this spot. And moving on next, we got Indiana and Notre Dame. Guys, Indiana and Notre Dame, both of these teams, I think they're kind of like the little brothers of this bracket, to be honest. Both of these teams, pretty great teams, obviously top 10 ranked, but Indiana hasn't really played anybody. And when they did, they played Ohio State, got completely demolished. So I don't really know what to think about Indiana. And as far as Notre Dame, it's kind of the same situation. Don't really know what to think with Notre Dame. Their passing attack has not been great. Riley Leonard, was touted to be one of the best quarterbacks, but honestly, they have relied a lot on the run. Their passing attack is not too great, guys. Still in this spot, it could be a good upset spot for Indiana. I would take Indiana to cover in this spot, but I think Notre Dame is going to pull away with this one. And I think obviously if you do take Indiana on the cover, let's see what their see 8.5 is quite a bit aligned for Notre Dame here. Obviously they're favored by 7.5, but I think if you guys want to take plus 7.5 for Indiana, I think it's definitely possible if you guys want to take that. Also, the under on this one would be a pretty good bet as well. As you can see, minus 115 for 50.5. That's a pretty high line. However, I will say Indiana could, just air it out like they usually do. Kevin Rourke has been a pretty great quarterback. As you can see his stats here, 2,800 passing yards, 27 touchdowns to 4 picks. Has been playing pretty well this year. But if we look at their opponents, I mean, who are they really playing? And when they did play someone, they got completely blown out. Not a lot of ranked teams here. The only ranked team that they played this year was Ohio State. They got completely demolished. So as you can see, I'm not really too confident in them going into Notre Dame and pulling out a win here. So I'm going to take Notre Dame. And that's our first round of the playoff. That's probably the easiest one so far. Now, this is where we get a little bit controversial here. I have a couple upsets in this round that you guys might not like. And the first one is going to be Arizona State to beat Texas. Guys, I know, I love Texas. They're my team. But Quinn Ewers, man, has been looking suspect, guys. And honestly, when they play big games, it's not coming out. I love Sark, man, but Quinn Ewers, his draft stock has fallen so much. I mean, we looked at this guy as the potential #1 overall pick. But if we're looking at the trends of the last couple teams, like how we're looking with the last couple games that they've played, obviously Arizona State has been on fire. Scatebo, one of the best running backs in the league. If Genty wasn't Genty this season, I mean, Arizona State, they would have been probably in the position that Boise State is in. Obviously, a top 4 seed is quite a bit of a success for Arizona State here. But if we look at this schedule, they've played good teams all year. Utah, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State. Pretty great teams, and they've come through in the games that they've lost. Cincinnati, they did not have Levitt, and Texas Tech, they were even close against Texas Tech, right? So one loss without their quarterback. Guys, Arizona State has been playing amazing in their last couple games. They've been on fire. Guys, if we look at Texas's first year in the SEC, I mean, they have been playing some pretty great teams. Obviously, that comes with being in the SEC, the most competitive conference in college football. They lost to Georgia twice. I will say it was very close this last game against Georgia. But guys, I mean, it just shows you like what kind of competition they're going against. Obviously, they're going to blow out bad teams. Michigan being ranked number 10 at the start of the season was complete, just tomfoolery. They blow them out, obviously. But who have they really played? Oklahoma. They blow out Oklahoma. Oklahoma's ass. I mean, Vandy, they barely beat Vandy. If we look at the other ranked teams, I mean, Kentucky was pretty good. And then they put up 17 points against Texas A&M. Obviously, the Aggies, another great SEC team this year. But guys, I mean, who have they really, really beaten? And when they played Georgia, they got smacked, frankly, and they barely lost this last one. If we look at the trajectory of these two teams, I feel like Arizona State is just in a better spot to advance here. I love Scatebo, I love Levitt. I think this Arizona State team has what it takes to be quite an underdog and win this game against Texas. So that's going to be my first upset of the bracket. Get Texas out of here. Get Quinn Ewers out of here. Time for Arch Manning. Arizona State advances. Next one, Ohio State taking on Oregon. Now, this has been one of the best matchups. Obviously, Oregon did pull out the win against Ohio State earlier in the year. Very close game. I believe they lost by 1 point. Oregon, I love Oregon, man. Great offense. Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, Trayshawn Holden, Evan Stewart. A great passing attack. And, I mean, honestly, they're just a complete package in terms of offense. In terms of defense, they have been giving up quite a bit of points as of recently, especially against Penn State. They did give up quite a bit of points. Ohio State is in quite a bit of a tough matchup here against Oregon, but I think it's going to be hard for Oregon to come away with the win twice in one season. Ohio State being ranked number 8 in this bracket is kind of foolish to me. Obviously, they have been a little bit shaky as of recently. But I think Ohio State is going to pull away with this one as well, guys. And I wouldn't even call it much of an upset, to be honest. Ohio State should be ranked a little bit higher, in my opinion. And I think Oregon goes down here to Ohio State. And a lot of Ohio State fans won't be surprised for me to say this because, I honestly think Oregon, they had a pretty easy path this year. But I think Ohio State is just a little bit more in the running for it. And if I look at the preview, Look at the last couple games Oregon has played. Obviously, they barely pulled away against Penn State. But other than that, who have they really played this year? I mean, they barely beat Boise State. They blew out Illinois. But come on, that's Illinois. And then, you know, they're just blowing out bad teams. Barely beat Wisconsin. I think Ohio State has what it takes to go a little bit deeper in this playoff run. A little bit more experience too. Ryan Day coaching for his job. I think Ohio State pulls away with this one, and it's not much of an upset if you ask me. Next one, Penn State, Boise State. Now this is another one. This is a hot take for me. Ashton Jeanty has been doing crazy things this year in his Heisman campaign. He won't win it. He's not going to win it this year. But I think what they're going to do, I think the coach, Boise State, they're going to feed Ashton Jeanty. And I know, obviously, against UNLV, they did kind of shut down Jeanty a little bit. But I think in this spot, I think Boise State is going to pull away with it, guys. I know it's not a very popular opinion, but I think Boise State's just on their little Cinderella run this year. I mean, nobody expected Boise State to be this good, to win the Mountain West, but they did. Ashton Jeanty, he's probably, if he wins this game, they're probably going to try and get him to beat Barry Sanders' FBS record for rushing yards in a season, and I think this is the path that he needs to take to get there. Beating Penn State well, actually, I think they get the first round bye, so I believe it will be in Boise State if they do play this game. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for Boise State to win this game. Obviously, they're going to score a lot of points, Boise State. Ashton Jeanty's going to get the ball fucking 30 times this game, probably. Penn State's probably going to try and force Boise State to pass this game, but if we look at Maddox Madsen, he has been pretty solid this year. 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 picks. You know, when they force him to pass, he has been pretty decent. Camper, obviously, also a pretty decent wide receiver. Boise State does have a pretty balanced attack when you ask me in terms of passing and rushing. Now, that is kind of a contradiction of what I said about, you know, Jeanty getting 30 yards, 30 carries per game. But I think that's going to be on the back of Jeanty. This will be a pretty controversial take, guys, but I love Boise State to go quite far in this bracket. Penn State is a tough matchup for them, but I think at home here, they do pull out the win against Penn State. Not a very popular take here, but I'm going to take Boise State, and I'm going to take Ashton Jeanty. I'm going to try and get that FBS record. I think he's on track to do it. Obviously, not in as many games as Barry Sanders did. I think he did it in like 10 or 11 games in 1989. But Jeanty's going to try and get that record. I think they're going to try and feed him as much as possible, and if they do that, they will win this game, in my opinion. Boise State goes on against Penn State. Now we got Notre Dame, Georgia. A lot of people are liking Notre Dame to pull away in this game. I don't think so. I think Carson Beck, if he does stay injured, the backup, I forget his name, like Stockton or something like that, he did look pretty good. And Georgia has probably the best defense in FBS in college right now. I love Georgia to pull away with this game. I don't really have to say much about this. People are going to call out, can Stockton really do it against Notre Dame? I think Georgia has what it takes, especially with ETN being back as well. They're just going to feed him Arian Smith, Dominic Lovett. This team is just going to be too much for Notre Dame, guys. I can't see Notre Dame going past Georgia, especially with Coach Smart. I just think this team's too well coached, too much talent on this team for them to lose in the second round. And for their first game of the college football playoff, especially off of a win against Texas, they're fired up. They're going for another natty, and I think this is a good spot for them. So I'm taking Georgia. Georgia against Notre Dame, taking Georgia easily. Now, for these games, I don't really have any kind of like bets for you. Arizona State, if you want to just take like the point spread, I think, they will outright win this game. If you want to take the money line, it could be pretty good money. But we're just going to see what the lines are when these games come by. Obviously, I think the first round is going to be pretty easy to bet on. Texas will win this game. Ohio State probably will win this game, but I think the under is a good bet in this game. Penn State probably to cover in this game. And I think Notre Dame also, if you want to take the money line on Notre Dame, also a good pick. But in these second rounds, I'm not going to really give you guys any too many predictions in terms of bets. This is just who I think will win, in my opinion. Georgia going to win this game. And let's go to the college football semifinals. This is what it would usually be in the 14 playoff format that had been for a while. Arizona State taking on Ohio State. Boise State taking on Georgia. This is not a little bracket that I would have predicted at the start of the season, but it's here nonetheless. Ohio State, Arizona State. Interesting. So in this spot, I really do think Ohio State's going to win this. Arizona State, obviously on their little Cinderella run right now. have been playing great this season, but I think this is where it does end in this playoff bracket. If it was against Oregon, I think I would also pick Oregon, but I think honestly in this case, it's going to be Ohio State to win this game against Arizona State. Love Skatibo, love Levitt, and I think, you know, it's going to be a great couple. I mean, Skatibo, I don't know if he's committed to the draft this year, but dude's going to be a monster. I mean, he looks like the next CMC, but like even bigger, like built bigger, you know, just beefier in general. He could get injured, but I think he's going to be really good, man. And Ohio State, they're just going to be a little bit too much. That defense is too good. I think they're going to go far in this bracket, guys, Ohio State. And I'm not a homer. I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I think obviously, you know, just the way the bracket plays out this year, them going against Oregon, it's a really good path for them to get to that college football national title game. And I think this is a good spot for them, especially if Arizona State, you know, pulls through against Texas. Even if it was Texas, I probably would pick Ohio State anyway. Texas in those big games, man, I just can't really trust Texas in the big games, especially with Quinn Ewers. I mean, I love Quinn, man, but it just hasn't looked too great for them in those big games. That Georgia game, really, I just lost a lot of confidence in Texas. So I'm taking Ohio State here against Arizona State. That's how it is. And then Boise State versus Georgia. I would love to pick Boise State to win this game. You know, I would love to say it, but I mean, come on, guys. If Ashton Jeanty goes against Georgia's defense, I don't even think he's going to get 100 yards. I mean, this is like an NFL-ready defense, SEC going against Mountain West. Georgia is going to shut down Ashton Jeanty if he does get to this game. Obviously, I think they will try and feed him, but Georgia's just too good, man. Georgia's just, the defense is way too good for them to just let Ashton Jeanty get 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He will probably get touchdowns. They're probably going to try and feed him. But this Georgia defense, I mean, if you're going to force Madison to pass against that Georgia defense, like, there's no way he's going to be able to pick apart, you know, all these elite safeties. Now, the corners are a little bit of a question for Georgia, but I just think it's a little bit too much. And obviously, the main concern would be, you know, Georgia's, you know, attack against Boise State defense. But it's not like they have, you know, some elite defense or anything like that. I think Georgia's going to move the ball. ETN's going to get the ball a lot. Dominic Lovett, Arian Smith going to get a lot of screen passes, just deep passes down the field. If Carson Beck is back at this point, if it was Carson Beck, I don't know how I feel, because Carson Beck kind of has been a little bit shaky in those big games. But either way, if it's Stockton or Beck, I still think Georgia pulls away against Boise State with this one. And we got Ohio State and Georgia in the national title game. I think this is a pretty good prediction, guys. Two of the best teams, in my view, in this bracket. You could take Oregon over Ohio State, but I just think, you know, if it isn't Ohio State, it's Oregon. And if it isn't Georgia, it's probably Penn State. You know, maybe Penn State beats Boise State. That's probably what will happen. So it's either Ohio State and Penn State, or any combination of those kinds of teams. But in my view, in my bracket here, I have Ohio State and Georgia. And guys, I have Georgia winning the Natty once again. Guys, this team is just too talented. I mean, I don't know what to say. Ohio State, you know, they could pull away with it. And it will be controversial for me to say Georgia's going to win it when they don't even have, like, their starting quarterback, you know, winning. But for some reason, like, Kirby Smart is just, he's just him. Like, they just pull through in the big spots. The Dogs always pull through in the big spots. And I think against Ohio State here, it's going to be another one of those games where they're just disappointed again. Ryan Day, I mean, I don't think he'll get fired if he makes us the Natty, but I just think Ohio State, you know, doesn't really have that one X factor player. I mean, obviously their wide receiver core is insane and their defense is pretty amazing too, but Georgia's just, the defense is too much, guys. The defense is too much. The offense can beat you in many different ways. I'm taking Georgia to win the national title this year. It wants me to predict how many points will be scored in the entire college football playoff bracket. I don't even know what my guess would be in that case. If all these games are favored to be like 50 points, I assume, you know, one of these games, probably the Boise State game, if they play Penn State, probably going to be, you know, a pretty high scoring game. They're probably going to run it up. I think anywhere between 500 and 600 points total is a good bet. I think this one, especially with like all the great offenses in the playoff this year, I think I'm going to go with 585 here as a total score. And I think that's what we're going to do here. Georgia to win it, 585 points total in the entire bracket. That's just my bracket, guys. Let me know who you think is going to win the national title this year. Let me know who your upset team is, who your little Cinderella darling is. For me, it's Boise State and Arizona State. Do I think they'll make it all the way to the Natty? Probably not, honestly. I don't think they will. But if I did, you know, if it was up to me, I would say Arizona State, Boise State would be an amazing college football. Imagine Boise State and Arizona State in the fucking national title game. Ashton Genty going against Skatibo. I mean, that would feed generations, guys. That would feed families for generations. That would be like an all-time real Rax Bowl. You know. But that's pretty much all I got for you boys. College football playoff bracket. Here we go. I'm going to submit it. I don't know. I'll have to make an account. Fuck it. I'll make an account after this video. But that was the bracket, guys. And that's all I got for you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.